so many hats, but I
that.
never wear them.
What do you think about this one here?
Because I'm 43 years old. If I start wearing hats, I'm going to lose my hair. That's the reason I'm 43 and still have my hair.
You can wear some hats.
I wear them during baseball season when I coach.
What do you think about this one?
It's nice.
It's a nice hat. College hat. That's up your road.
You got a lot of lettuce. You got to let it flow.
Well, I do. I let it flow out the hat. You know what I mean? I'm always a hatsman.
All right, let's get one thought every game and the matchups to watch. Break this one down. Oh, man.
I want to know if he's a hat guy. I don't even care about the games.
Let's bring in KC Joyner, NFL insider, the footballscientist.com. I don't see KC as a hat guy. Do you wear a hat?
Only out if it's out in the sun. We're in Florida, so we get out in the hot sun. Sometimes I'll wear the hat. But normally I got the hair, so I got to keep it short off. You know?
That's what I said. I'm 43. I still have all my hair. I can't be wearing hats because, the next thing you know, the hair starts falling out. You get some bald spots. No hat for me. All right, let's look at this one, man. I got to tell you, this tape looks ugly when these two teams match up. All I see is Shanahan with jet sweeps, misdirection, and Kittle running wild against that lousy linebacking core.
And Deebo Samuel, too, returning. If it wasn't bad enough, you get him back, and it does not look good. I keep trying to find paths to victory. I think I found a couple for the Eagles and things. But, yeah, generally speaking, this has the looks of a mismatch.
All right, let's start with, up front, because a lot in the trenches can change some things. How's the 49er offensive line? The one positive, I'm wondering if this is the one path to victory, is if the Eagles' defensive front causes some problems.
I think that's part of it. The Eagles need to make sure, by the way, they've allowed more defensive drives this year, 40 drives against their defense than any other team in the league. So you got to find a way to not have your defense out there for 13 drives a game if you can help it. But, yeah, that is part of it because the 49ers, they're a very good run-blocking team. But the thing is they are inconsistent. So they'll get very big holes in defenses when they do block well, but they don't block particularly well all the time. And, the Eagles have that one gap, get up the field pressure. They can keep what I call good blocking rate. They can keep that down for the 49ers, I think, and it's a matter of, okay, when the 49ers do get good blocking, can the Eagles, which is always their problem, can they keep the big gains down? But if they can, then they've got a chance to slow down the ground game.
Two corners out. Avonte Maddox, the starter. His backup, Trevor Williams, who was supposed to start, he is out. They're going to be on their third corner. How big of a factor is that? Do the Niners like to push the ball down the field?
They can. I mean, that's not their biggest thing. They're going to push it down the field off of the play action. But I wonder with Kittle back in there how much he's going to go into their offense. And I wonder with Salmon, when you've got injured players coming back, do you send a lot of your do you go full strength and say, hey, these guys are going to be in there, or do you expect to get some injury rust? I'm expecting some injury rust, so I don't think they'll necessarily push it deep. And plus, the 49ers, just not with a backup quarterback, they're not going to say, let's go vertical first and foremost. They're going to do that as a counterpunch. But I'm the Eagles. I'm still concentrating on the ground game.
All right, you look at that defense of San Francisco. It's a little beat up, yes, but Philly's offense, no Deshaun Jackson, no Alshon Jeffrey, likely no J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, so you got basically a skeleton crew at wide receiver. Where can they find some cracks in the 49ers defensive armor?
No Goddard either. So
no Goddard, yes.
Yeah.
No Jalen Reagor.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad. Where I keep looking, the metric that keeps standing out, and I'm looking over the tape and the metrics I have, but the one thing that stands out is in week 2, the 49ers give up 182 rushing yards, 104 rushing yards to the Jets, and they give up 180 rushing yards to the Cardinals in week 1. I mean, this is a rush defense that, when you look at the metrics, is middle of the league, and frankly, I look at their per carry metrics and some of the plays they have. They allowed Kyler Murray to get double-digit yardage on 4 rushes, and they allowed Daniel Jones to get a couple rushes. So if I'm the Eagles, I know we don't have a great passing game, but I'm saying, all right, well, Wentz, you've got some mobility, and they've shown a penchant for giving up some of those, so I want him to get a couple of plays, and I'm just going to go a lot of 12 or bring in an extra lineman and say, look, we're just going to go ahead and pound you guys because you're kind of banged up front. We're going to see if we can get 125 yards on the ground, which I think is a reasonable estimate.
We watched the game against the Rams, and they got Goff moving out of the pocket. Is that something that Doug Peterson needs to start doing more of? Get Wentz moving to gain some confidence.
I think that would be part of it. I think you also need to do. They can simplify some of the game plans. I mean, you could do 2-man routes, 3-man routes. You could do full field routes. You could do 1-man routes. And the more complex I think you make it for Wentz right now, the more difficult you make it for him. So what I'm trying to do, unless the 49ers make it otherwise. I'm going to try and do a lot of simple two-man routes. I'm going to try and get people, maybe somebody isolated in a one-man route, and say I'm going to run certain things against them, or hopefully if they play off, I'm going to try and throw some hitch routes. I'm just going to try and find things that can make him successful. Because as I talked earlier this week, I think if he has success and starts to trust the receivers that he does have out there, if he has some success with that and he can start trusting the offensive line, he's going to play better. Because right now, I think he just thinks I've got to be successful and I've got nobody around me helping me.
You know, last year they simplified things. They didn't have very many help in terms of weapons, in terms of wide receivers. They won 4 games. Now, you're playing San Francisco. You weren't playing the Giants. I think the Giants, they played twice in that run. I think Washington was in there. So this is a little different. But is simplifying things the way to go to get Carson back on track?
It's partially
just real quick, because what made Carson is that he made the brilliant play. He made the outstanding play. He you know what I mean? Like, he wasn't just, dinking and dunking and doing stuff, and that's why it's just such a weird thing to see him regress so much.
I think maybe you got to find ways to get Ertz open. They got to find ways to you can play call certain people open and things. I wouldn't be surprised. I'll tell you one other person that if you do want to decide you're going to take shots, one person I might want to go after is a guy named Mikella Witherspoon, who's in the 49ers secondary. 8 passes thrown his way. He's allowing 10 yards per attempt, 7 completions and 10 yards per attempt. So you can look at that and say maybe if you get a big player too, and let's not forget, they are facing a backup quarterback. Mullins is not somebody. This is not Garoppolo. This is a backup quarterback, and if he's, he might make some mistakes like last night. Rippon made some big plays, but he also made some big plays for the Jets. So you look at that and say maybe Mullins could do the same thing. So if you can land a turnover or two from Mullins, and you can get the quarterback runs, and you can get some movement in the ground, and you can maybe hit a big play against Witherspoon, you start adding it up. It's a small path to victory, but there is one there.
Just tell us what's different about, because I looked at the numbers between Garoppolo and Mullins. They're almost identical across the board. What's different about the San Francisco offense with the quarterback change?
The thing that both of them do is they'll have high bad decision rates. And I say a high bad decision rate. Most quarterbacks today have low bad decision rates because the league has figured out how to make sure the quarterbacks don't throw picks. But you can do things. Shanahan wants to be aggressive in his offense. When he calls an aggressive play, his quarterbacks tend to want to take that aggressive play. And if you're there waiting for them, or you've got a counterpuncher, you know what to look for, and you can take chances in secondary. If I'm the Eagles, I might do that when they're taking shot plays, or when they're taking some of those big plays like that, because their quarterbacks will force passes in the coverage. I think part of it is that they know they're not going to get that many chances. So when Shanahan calls for a big play, they're going to try to take it. And I think the Eagles need to turn 1 or 2 of those into interceptions. And I think that Mullins, just like Garoppolo, will give them those opportunities.
Obviously, not a lot of people have optimistic vibes around this team right now. 0-3-1 would be disastrous. But you said you found a couple paths to victory. What are some of those paths?
You can do 2 things. You can try and turn this game into a shootout, which I don't think is a good idea for the Eagles. I think that trying to do that.
Pass. No. Give me another one.
Yeah, that would normally be your approach to say, let's try and see if we can get this in a shootout, because they're 50-50 propositions even against powerhouse offenses. So I think the thing is, it's the number of drives. I mentioned that the Eagles have allowed more drives on defense, 40 drives on defense. No other team has had more against them. I think you need to keep that number down to 10. If the Eagles can keep the number of drives in this game to 10 or more, to 10 or lower, or if it's a higher number, it's because you're getting a couple of interceptions and having quick drives like that. And turnovers move it up there. But if it doesn't a turnover-laden game, if you can keep it to 10 or lower possessions, you've got a shot, because there are some things you can do the running game against this defense. I think that's the chance. But if this thing gets up to 12 or 13 possessions against the Eagles again, I think that's when they lose.
All right, we'll get Casey's take on that game, who will win and why, coming up. But first, let's get one thought on every Week 4 game, starting with the Thursday nighter. It was entertaining. I mean, Rippon will grip it and rip it, no pun intended, but my God, are the Jets a disaster?
They are. I mean, the funny thing is that their defense actually has some strong suits. They did get 3 interceptions. And if you said coming into the game, the Jets are going to get 30 yards of offense, and they're going to get 3 picks, and they're going to score 28 points, you think, yeah, of course they win. But, of course, they find a way to give up 37. They got to get rid of Gase soon enough.
Yep. We'll see when that ends up happening. All right. Indy and Chicago. Foles is up against his former coach, Frank Reich, who he gave a lot of praise this week. Said, he's the guy that got it out of me. What does Foles add to this 3-0 Bears team? And you got a 2-1 Colts team traveling on the road. By the way, the Colts are favored on the road here.
Yeah, they should be. They've got the best defense in the league. They're allowing a lower yards per play total than any team in the league, so I think the Bears are going to have some big problems against that. But what Foles allows you to do, I think if you're Nagy, you just trust your quarterback more. I can call for bigger plays with him than I can for Trubisky because I just don't trust Trubisky. He's going to take too many chances. But even against the Colts, as strong as their defense is, and by the way, their offensive line is blocking as well as any team in the league, I like the Colts pretty handily.
Wow, likes Colts pretty handily there, everybody. We were talking about that game earlier. Jacksonville, Cincinnati, kind of a clunker here, but you get to see the number one pick, his progression. And that Jacksonville team, look, if they can get a win here, Cincinnati hasn't won, 14 straight other than the tie last week. Jacksonville can get themselves to 2-2, but do they do it? Does Cincinnati break this streak?
It's a tough call to say Cincinnati would break the streak. I mean, I like things about Cincinnati because of what their pass offense. Burrow's looking better week to week to week, but they've got the worst rush defense of the league, and I think James Robinson's going to get some big plays. I'm still going to take the Bengals because I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, and I like them for that. But I think this is going to be one of those 34-31 contests.
Oh, a fun one there. Sometimes these bad teams give us good games. How about Cleveland here? Going to Dallas, 2-1. Cleveland scored 30 points or more back-to-back weeks. We know Dallas can put up points, can't stop anyone. This has the makings of a shootout.
It does. Chubb and Hunt, and Hunt is hurt, so it's a question if he can go full. But if he can't, Chubb can still take on a bell cow workload for a day. But the Browns are third in rush yards and fourth in rush yards per attempt. And you mentioned Dallas; they lead the league in offensive yards. They're tied for second in rushing touchdowns. I mean, they're still getting some ground production too. So, but the Browns defense is banged up, and the Cowboys defense is not. And I think the Cowboys just have more talent on defense. So I like the Cowboys, but not by a whole lot.
All right, let's go where are we at here in Detroit. They came back on the road last week. That was disappointing for Arizona, but can they hold up to New Orleans, who hasn't looked themselves either? They put up some points on Monday night there, but, they're struggling a little bit. Breeze at the, Breeze doesn't seem to be able to push the ball down the field as much.
The Saints have the lowest air yards per attempt this season. They are more dink and dunk than any other team, and I think it'll remain that way. Detroit has some secondary problems. They've got a couple corners that are banged up, and they could be shorthanded there. But they're giving up 5.7 yards per carry, and the Saints want to be a ground-heavy team. So Kamara and Latavius Murray are both going to get a lot of carries this week, and that's what I think gives the Saints the win.
Seattle and Miami, they had to travel across the country here. Dolphins have a couple extra days. They played on Thursday night last week. Hey, Seattle's defense stinks. Can Miami put up some points here and maybe steal one, or not ready for that?
Seattle's defense, the first in NFL history to allow 1,200 or more passing yards first 2 weeks of the season. It's terrible. Miami's scored 59 points in the past 2 weeks, and they put up 311 passing yards against Buffalo. So I think that and plus, this could be a trap game, by the way. All the makings are there for it. Seattle just got through the couple of highly emotional games. They're taking the longest road trip of the week. I'm still going to pick them because they get such the talent edge, but I only have a confidence level like 2 in this one.
L.A. and Tampa. Here comes Tampa back home. Chargers traveling across the country. They had a tough loss last week against Carolina. Tampa Bay was able to take care of Denver. We'll get to see Brady get to 3-1.
I think we will. The thing is Brady struggles. Everybody pays attention to him, and Godwin's hurt, and Evans was hurt, and what's going to happen with Gronk? Everybody's talking about that. Tampa's defense ranks tied for third in sacks. They're tied for second in interceptions. They're tied for fourth in TD pass percentage allowed, and they're second in tackles for loss. This defense is playing exceptionally well, and the Chargers have a 2,000-mile road trip. Doesn't matter if they go with Taylor or Herbert. I think that the Bucs can be pretty confident winning this one.
All right, Beltway Series, Baltimore and Washington. Baltimore coming off a bad loss on Monday night. Washington, of course, since the Eagles games, looked a lot like Washington all of a sudden. This is a bad spot for them, is it not?
It's the best match of the year so far. I don't usually do. I do confidence level picks for pick watch, and I do a 1 to 10 scale. And 10 means that the pick is as confident as can be, and I've got the Ravens with the confidence level of 10 in this one. I mean, Washington's they've got the third lowest scoring drive rate in the league. Baltimore's defense is going to be fired up to come back, and I think their offense is too. I think this could be a 30-point win for Baltimore.
30-point win for Baltimore. Wow. Arizona, Carolina. I was so disappointed with Arizona last week. That's a home game against a bad team. Now you got to travel on the road. Are we looking at back-to-back wins for Carolina and back-to-back losses for Arizona?
It's one of those things that's probably the best thing that could have happened to them, because I think they were starting to read their press clippings and, hey, we can just take a game off against the Lions. We'll beat these guys. And the Lions decided they wanted to play. I think Arizona is going to step up because of that. Arizona has across-the-board matchup advantages. I don't see any places really where Carolina has an advantage, and they could potentially turn into a shootout game, but that's not what they want to do. So I see a lot of paths to victory for Arizona in this one.
All right, how about Minnesota 0-3, Houston 0-3? Two teams I don't think anybody thought would be a combined 0-6 when they met in this game, but who gets there first?
Minnesota has 0 punt returns this year. They don't have a single punt return this year. That's how bad their defense is. It's amazing that the Mike Zimmer defense can be this bad, and he's trying a lot of things to correct it, but I think it's a lot of personnel issues. I don't think it's bad coaching. I don't think it's necessarily that they're not playing the way they should. This is who they are. And against Houston, I think Houston's going to find a way to put up a lot of points, and I don't trust Minnesota's offense enough to pick them. So Houston by a small amount.
All right, New York traveling. It's New York and L.A., the two biggest cities we got here, but maybe the two biggest, differentials in talent in this week. You got the Giants taking on the Rams. Rams have been on the road for a couple of weeks. The Giants got bombed last week at home, and now they're going to L.A. L.A.'s been mopping up on the NFC East.
They have, and they're going to do that again this week. The Giants have by far the worst rushing attack in the league. They're last in rush attempts, rush yards, and rush yards per attempt. They can't get anything done, and they keep scoring fewer points. It was 16 in week 1, 13 in week 2, 9 in week 3. I think they'll get back to double digits this week, but the Rams' offense is playing very well, too, by the way. And in fact, the funny thing is they got Van Jefferson was their 3, now it looks like Josh Reynolds is going to be their 3, and Van Jefferson to be their 4, so they're even deeper in the receiving core than they were before, so I like them by a lot.
I feel that if Brady was at New England, this game would be getting more pub. It would be a higher profile, but Kansas City, New England, a pretty good game. It's an 8-point spread. Kansas City too much?
I think Kansas City too much, and I think part of it is that people are seeing Newton and saying, hey, he's a running quarterback. Yeah, he got the big game against Seattle, but Seattle's got the historically bad defense. So I think people realize that Cam is just not going to be a pass quarterback. And when you've got a running quarterback and it's a ground game like that, I think people think it's more of a boring approach. But here's the thing, Kansas City, they don't want to get into shootout contest. This won't be a shootout contest, but they've got a lot of ways to get to a lot of points. And I think that the Patriots are capped at like 24 in this game top, so I like Kansas City.
Buffalo, 3-0, traveling on the road. Vegas, Vegas is coming off a tough one, and obviously Buffalo has had some close games here. So I feel like this might be the one that everybody's looking at Buffalo and saying they're the favorite on the road here. I'm wondering if Buffalo finally stubs their toe as a road favorite here.
I'm thinking the same thing. I've still got them as the pick, but Las Vegas is playing very well on offense. They've got to make it. They've got some injuries in the receiving core. They're just controlling the line of scrimmage with the ground game, of course. But here's the thing: Buffalo's going to 4 wide receiver sets, more than any team in the league. So they're scoring all these points, and hey, that's great. They're getting into shootouts. They've allowed 30-plus points in every, or 24-plus points in every game. The Bills' defense ranks 27th in pass yards allowed, and 20th in expected points allowed, and 16th in points allowed. I mean, this is just a subpar defense, and eventually it's going to catch up with them. I don't think it'll be this week. It'll be 60-plus points scored this week, but I think they'll win. But they need to change it because they can't keep winning this way.
All right, then on Monday, Casey will be back to tell us about Atlanta and Green Bay. Don't forget, Tennessee and Pittsburgh was postponed. That game will be played in week number 7, and that is your NFL week number 4. One thought every game. Let's get your thought on Philly and San Francisco. Your thought on that game, who wins and why?
I have to pick San Francisco just because they have many more paths to victory. When I do these confidence levels, I'm trying to think of the percentage chance of victory based on number of paths to victory, and I can see a 2-in-10 chance of Philadelphia winning this contest and saying, okay, this could happen if they do this, if they do that. But when you're talking on the road against a San Francisco team that's getting Kittle and Samuel back and all the other factors that we've got, I've got to pick San Francisco this one. I think the Eagles can keep it within a touchdown, but I think it's still a confident San Francisco win.
All right, KC Joyner back on Monday with one thought on every game in Week 4 and a preview of the Monday Night Football game. And he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. KC, have a great weekend, my friend. Enjoy the football.
Thank you. You too, man.